you can take a before and after picture of like someone's body, but you can't take a before and after picture of like their mind.
Absolutely.
And I think that's probably even a bigger deal.
Yes. That is what I'm 100% most passionate about is, yes, like health and fitness is the avenue, but what we're really changing here that nobody realizes and everyone starts to realize as we go throughout the challenge months and such is that we're changing our mind.
This episode is brought to you by Big Storage Ventures. We are now inviting you to team up and partner alongside us. We bring our experience hunting storage deals and maximizing the self-storage asset to provide our partners with cash flow, tax benefits, and appreciation, all in one recession-resistant asset. Leverage our sister company, Big Ben's Moving Service, to fill your facility and give you an edge over the competition. Reach out to bigstorageventures@gmail.com or DM Big Storage Ventures on Instagram to team up. On today's episode, we have Andrea Fausett. Andrea is the owner of Mama Fitness. She created her own app. She's featured in Forbes magazine, and we had a thrill just talking with her about her journey from being a nurse to quitting her job, starting her Mommy Fit with Andrea, and how it's rocketed to where it is today.
Yeah, I'm really excited for everyone to get a chance. There's so many things that she said in this episode that had a big impact on me, from goal setting to habit creation to just health, fitness, and life and business. It's an incredible episode, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
You don't really like something until you're good at it. And I think if you think of anything in life that you're doing, like if you're not very good at it or you don't feel very confident in it, you generally don't like it. And so a lot of the times, like everything we love is what was developed when we were younger and we weren't afraid to fail, right?
Yeah.
So we tried these things, we weren't great at it, but we got better because like we didn't care if we sucked at it because we were kids.
Right.
But then as adults, like a lot of the times we don't start or like find any new loves or passions because we're generally not very good at it right away. So we stick to what we know. And so coming into something new, it's like you have to give it enough time to become good enough at it that the love can come. But it's normal to not feel the love
that way,
right away.
Yeah. I totally know what you're saying because I don't remember what grade I was in. It was when I was younger, but I just remember I was sitting up in my room. It was like middle of the summer. So it was probably like 2 or 3 o'clock and I'm just laying on my bed, and I'm not soaking up any sunlight. I'm probably feeling like, probably didn't realize it then, but kind of depressed. Like I'm just like a lazy kid. And my sister, I remember she would just, she would text me and call me like, hey, come train with me and these kids. My brother-in-law, he coaches at Dixie State, but he was training. We had Kyle Boyer on the owner. So he was training with Kyle and he was like doing in the regional team, doing CrossFit and stuff like that. And
Sick.
And then he started training a couple high school kids for getting ready for football. And so my sister was like, come train with these boys and stuff. And I was like afraid. Like I was actually kind of nervous, really nervous to go. And they got me to go. And that's like kind of what started that ball rolling of like exercising. And then Ben and I, we always talk about this, but we trained with Misi. It was my sophomore to junior year. Anyways, we did a summer where we trained together and it's like, that changed my life, like that summer of training and just learning to love it. And I just loved it so much that I've, tried to exercise. I'm not obviously I'm not huge and not a bodybuilder or anything, but like,
Most of us aren't. That's okay.
Like more like daddy.
You are, Kallan, don't be modest.
More like daddy fit, where it's like, where I've thought it's like, I'm not trying to get massive or anything.
Yeah.
I just want to have a good, healthy lifestyle. And I want to be able to have the freedom to do whatever I want with my kids, or like the freedom to be like, yeah, I can go on that hike, or I can climb those stairs.
Yes, it is empowering to feel strong. And I think that's like such a shift people make is it's like, yeah, I can go do that. I am strong enough and I trust myself enough to go do that. And it's so cool when you see that mindset shift happen in people where that confidence starts to come. And the reason why I love health and fitness is like, that those skills that we gain, that self-belief and that self-confidence that comes from exercise correlates to every other area of our lives. So I always like to say, like, I empower women through health and fitness to take control of their lives. And health and fitness is the tool because it's something that's really easy to be like, check, like I'm doing this, right? So it's really easy to build that self-belief. And once we start having that self-belief in ourselves, it's going to apply to every other area of our lives. But if we can't keep promises to ourselves in health and fitness, we're probably not going to be keeping those promises to ourselves elsewhere. We just don't realize it because we're not paying attention to it. Yeah. Whereas like health, working out, those will usually start showing us where that's lacking. Like, oh, we say we're going to work out, but we don't. Or we say we're going to eat healthy and we don't. And it's like, if that's happening there, it's happening elsewhere. So it's going to be a whole mindset shift and a whole belief system shift so that we can get you to like keeping the promises that you make to yourself. And that's why people feel all these enhancements in life is because like now they have control over their life because they have control over like their belief in themselves and control over when they say they're going to do something, they actually believe they're going to do it, which is so powerful.
Yeah, it is. I love that. It's not easy. And I love how the audience, you know, like focusing on moms, you know, where it's one of the hardest things to be able to make time for.
Yes.
You know, and so I love that it can help inspire them to be like, you know what, I can.
Yes.
I can do a little bit. And I think that's something you taught my wife that I'm really grateful for. Really great. And it's, you know, a little bit is okay.
Yes.
You know, I don't have to, we set those expectations and it's like, well, if I'm not going to get the hour workout in, then screw that. I'm just going to like not do it.
Yes. I love to always tell my clients, it's not all or nothing. It's always something. And like once you're able to take that shift that like there's always something I can do and you believe that that little something makes a difference, it's that little snowball rolling down the hill. I always use this analogy with clients. It's like it starts small, but like as it builds and picks up more snow by the bottom of the mountain, it's huge, right? Because it's picked up all the snow. But like what a lot of people try to do is they try to like start with the big snowball. And so if you start with the big snowball, that means you're trying to push it uphill. And you're probably not going to make it very far. And then you're going to quit and it's going to roll back down. Right.
Yeah.
And the same goes with like us trying to do something when we try to start everything at once, the hour workout, the waking up early, the no eating treats, all these extreme things. Yeah. I'm like, absolutely not, because you're going to fail and we don't want you to fail. Yeah. We want you to find success, and that's going to come through those small wins. And that's what's going to ultimately lead you to that big thing. And I think as soon as, especially for moms, we can get rid of that guilt of doing something for us. I think there can be this like stigma of like, oh, like I'm home with my kids all day. Like I do all this. And I think that's great, you know, but you can also work or do whatever. I can be a mom and I love that and phrase. Yeah. I can be a great mom and a business owner. I can be a great mom and exercise. I can be a great mom and a million other things. And why would we want to limit ourselves to just being a great mom? Like, that's great, but also we can be a lot of things with that, and they can coexist at the same time, just like we can also be a great wife or a great spouse to someone, you know?
Well, let's dive in there a little bit, because I think that's something that's really impressive to me is that you carve out that time.
Yeah.
Right. And I know a little bit in your home, you and your husband, you're both, you know, serial entrepreneurs, Brody. And he was telling me that one thing that you do is you have like no phone zones. You're really strict on your hours. What advice would you give to someone who is a mom that is like, okay, like I want to build this empire, but maybe like doesn't have the time management skills or feels guilty? Like, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I think when it comes to time management, like discipline equals freedom. And as cliche as that sounds, I really, really, really love it. And for me, like I grew up with a mom that stayed home. There were 6 kids. She never worked a day in her life. And she would always say that like my goal is to be home. I want to be home with you, like for you kids.
Same with us, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when I first started working, I kind of felt like guilt over like choosing to work. How dare I do this? I'm away from my kids, blah, 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 blah. And then what I started to find is that I'm more fulfilled with what I do with Momale, and it makes me a better mom. And so that, now that I've like tasted that and realized that, it's helped propel everything forward. And my kids are super involved. They know about Momale. They ask about Momale. It's super fun. But yeah, with time management, that also means it has to be really strict. Like as entrepreneurs, anyone listening, like work doesn't ever stay in the office. It follows us everywhere. And so that's something that I do feel like it's my superpower is phone goes off. I will not text anyone back. I will not respond to employees. They know that. Like when I'm done with work, I'm done with work, and it can wait till the next morning. And I have like the do not disturb buttons on your iPhone. Yeah. Do you guys have those set? You can have like work mode, focus mode. I should. Ben, just kidding. Work For mode, real. Focus mode, and sleep mode, right? And so it's nice because focus mode only like my 2 employees that if they called me and it was an emergency, it'd be able to get through to me. But other than that, there's no communication. Then at 8 o'clock, my phone automatically goes into sleep mode and I won't get any messages until the morning unless it's someone that is allowed, right? And I think allowing those things gives you so much more time because I think someone can be home with their kids all day and not have any quality time. Yeah. And your kids are going to remember the quality moments, not the amount of time that you were actually there. So
quality over quantity.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like these same principles apply. And so when I am home, like I am home and we're having fun. And this is like going off on a little bit of a tangent, but now that I work full time, there's certain things that I've scheduled and given up. Like we have a house cleaner that comes once a week, and we have a nanny, and we have someone that does our grocery shopping. And it wasn't always that way when I first started working, but because kids are my number one priority, those are things that I'm willing to hire out so that when I'm home, like we are having so much fun. And I almost feel like I'm able to play more because I have this shorter amount of time. So it's so much easier to be like, okay, let's go do this. Not like, oh my gosh, we have a full day. Like, what are we going to do? You guys are driving me nuts.
You're never going to give up that.
Yes.
Like you'll give up everything else before your parenting time.
Absolutely.
You can literally delegate anything else that doesn't matter. And I think, you have a pretty big team. How many employees, how many are on your team now?
Yeah, we have 12 employees.
Okay.
Yeah, we're hiring 4 more this week.
Wow.
16 on the Momalay team. So I think carving out the mom time, the parenting time, has probably forced you to build your business faster.
Absolutely.
Because you're delegating, and a lot of the tasks that you would say, oh, I could take that on myself. Now you're like, I can't take that on myself. I only have X amount of hours.
Yes.
I have to delegate, and it has to make sense, and it forces the business to thrive and grow in a way that is more accelerated than someone that would either say, I'm either going to not spend time with my kids or I'm going to do this or that. Like when you compartmentalize, you delegate and you train. And I think that's probably helped your business accelerate faster than if you never did it.
For sure. Because every day I go into the office, I feel pressure because it's not a question of if I don't get it done tonight. If I don't get it done in time, I'll come out to the office tonight. It's not an option. Yeah. If it doesn't get done today, it's till tomorrow, and I already have tomorrow time blocked. So that means until next week. Yeah. Like it's a problem. Brody will be like, hey, can I ask you something? I'm like, nope. You got to schedule it in. Ask him. But no, I also think like for my team as well, we're all moms and everyone has kids and everyone works from home. And so I think for everyone, no offense to you guys, but like women can get a lot done in a little bit amount of time. We're very efficient, very efficient as a team. And I think that's helped so much is being diligent. Like put first things first, prioritize there. And if you're saying something's important to you and your time isn't matching, then you need to rearrange and be brutally honest with yourself.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that kind of gives me chills because one of my favorite books, I mentioned it before, it's called How Will You Measure Your Life?
Ooh, I haven't read that.
It's by Clayton Christensen. He's like a famous Harvard Business School professor. And, but he mentions that he's like, he asks people, okay, what are your goals, your priorities? And he does it with business. So he'll say, okay, well, if your goal is to have good, customer service or high quality products or something like that, then he's like, let's look at how you allocate your resources. Or if there's incentives for your sales team to sell this cheaper, not as high quality product, there's more incentive for them to sell that than this other one that's actually more affordable, but it's even, he's like, you look at how you're allocating your resources and things like that, and it'll tell you a lot about your priorities and your, and so it's like your time. He always say that, not business related, but time is one of the most valuable resources you have. And so how do I allocate that?
Absolutely. I know I mentioned this to you guys earlier, but my favorite book, like a game changer for me in the entrepreneur world, was Millionaire Success Habits. I don't know if you guys have read that by Dean Graziosi.
I will now.
You need to read it.
I actually haven't.
Okay. Well, you guys need to read it. I actually haven't always been entrepreneur minded. I graduated.
We need to talk about that.
Yes, we're going to talk about this. I graduated with my nursing degree. I grew up with Yeah, bachelor's in nursing. I grew up with like, you go to school, you get a degree, and anything outside of that realm felt so scary. I'm like definitely a type A control freak in many ways. And I was like, okay, I always want to, like, this is a good job. This is a good job as a mom. That's what I'd always been told. Like, I can work, it's good hours, blah, 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 blah. And then I married Brody, who's like, literally lives in dreamland. That's what I always say. Like, he lives in Brody land. We're not sure where that is, but he lives there. And he is just like dreamer boy from the second we met. And so I'm like, okay, like you do you, I'll do me, but like you better get your degree and get a good like 9-to-5 job, you know? And so he'd always listen to
That never happened, right?
No, it didn't. And he purposely has not finished his degree, just in case anyone knows. He has like one class left and he won't get it just out of sheer pride, which I'm totally fine with now. But
Right.
he would always listen to these self-help books and I would just be like, turn it off. Like in the car, I would literally say that. Like, I don't need this. This is so silly. I'm not going to listen to this. And then I started like getting into fitness. So we're just going way back. We're just going into the story here that will lead us to millionaire success habits. And so anyways, I started getting into fitness. I got into fitness this summer. Before we got married, I started a CrossFit gym and Brody's like, you're not allowed to go there. You're going to start looking like a man, like freaking out. And I'm like, just wait and see. And he was actually gone for summer cells. So I had 4 months to like become the fittest version of myself. And I played sports in high school, but I'd never touched a barbell. And so this was my first time lifting weights. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I was obsessed. So Brody came home, saw the changes, and was totally fine with me continuing to go to CrossFit. And then from there, I got like my training license and dived in there. And then we got pregnant with our first baby. And I had no idea what to do while pregnant. Like I just did it all. And looking back now, I just cringe because I had not a lot of knowledge and I was just trying to stay active. So I had our first baby.
You mean you did it all like you did
just lifted weights, sit-ups, like just everything.
Yeah.
Just kept doing your
you can
normal
lift
wad.
weights, but I wasn't smart with how I was doing it. And we had our first baby, and that's where like everything really changed for me because I'm like looking in the mirror, and your wife's about to have a baby. You guys have how many kids?
I have 2 kids.
2 kids. Okay, so you know.
Yeah.
I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm like, whoa. Like I just had a baby. I do not recognize the body that I'm looking at. Who am I? What do I want? I just started a nursing job. I didn't like it because I couldn't be home with my baby. And then I was home and I didn't feel fulfilled because I didn't have anything else. And it was just like this crisis. I'm like,
huge crossroads.
yes, like what am I going to do? And I remember Brody and we were remodeling a house at the time and we were sitting in IKEA. And I got my dream job right out of college in the OR and all this stuff. And I'm just bawling. I'm like, I don't want to work as a nurse anymore. Like, I hate that I have to be away from my baby, but then also when I'm home, like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything. And he's just sitting here like, oh man, postpartum hormones talking. And he just said to me, then quit. Like, quit. And I'm like, what? Like, I just spent all this time, money, effort to become a nurse. Like, that's my identity. And he's like, quit. And I'm like, no, there's no way. And he's like, quit. So I quit. I did. Like the next day I sent it my 2 weeks in.
Props.
I quit. And then I just continued to like figure out what I wanted to do at this point. And I was like I got super interested in pregnancy and postpartum fitness. And so my friends and Brody kept being like, you should just start sharing your experience. Just start sharing. And I'm like, no, like still very non-entrepreneur, non-business minded. I'm like, I never want to do something where I charge people. I'll just share as I go a little bit maybe, but I'm not an Instagrammer. I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it's totally different now. And so anyways, I started sharing very small and it was Mommy Fit. Mm-hmm. And this was what, like 4 years ago at this point.
Only 4.
4 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was just very minimal, very simple. Had no idea what I was doing. Instagram wasn't what it was today. And slowly people started like wanting more info, following along. And then like what really shifted, this was like a huge shift in the business was when I decided to do like a challenge. Like, let's launch a challenge, a 30-day challenge. We still do them today. It's the bread and butter of Mamale. And let's just see how it goes. And so I launched it. We had like a great launch. I made more money than I could have ever imagined with this first launch. And that's where it started to like click for me was, oh my gosh, like I can serve more people and I can have more people help me and I can reach more people. If I'm able to charge people for their service, they take it more seriously and I'm able to have capital to give better content, right? And so that was like a big, huge mindset shift for me. And that's when things started rolling a little bit. Yeah, I'm like, okay. So I started listening to books
Now
and self-help.
you drunk
Now
the
we're
Kool-Aid.
here, guys. Yes. So
It was after that first one.
yes. And I like tasted it and I'm like, oh my
Okay,
gosh, like
this works.
I can do this.
Yeah.
Like I can do this. And I never like saw myself, is that even being possible? I wasn't raised in a home with like, tons of money. Like it just wasn't even like a thought process for me. Brody was making great money. So it was like, sweet, we're good. Like I'll let him worry about that. And I realized like I can help more people and I can hire people and this is super awesome. And so after I drank that little bit of the Kool-Aid, I decided to read a book and I read Millionaire Success Habits. And why I love this book is I'd always been like, oh, people that are running businesses are just chasing money and they're like conceited and all they want is more money, more money, more money. And that's always how I saw it in my head. And then after reading Millionaire Success Habits, I loved because I realized they're not chasing more money. They're chasing more time.
Yes.
And that's something that nobody can buy more of is time.
Right.
And so if we're able to find a way to capitalize on the time that we have and how we can fill that time and not having to do trivial or menial tasks that we don't want to do, now we can 10x our lives because we have control over our time. And that's what money buys you, is freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want to do it. And that's really, really powerful. And that's what like spurred it for me. And then I realized too, like I also got to change people's lives while doing it.
Yeah.
And is there a better combo?
No.
There's not from a fulfillment perspective.
Well, and you look at all the pounds you've helped women drop and inches, but I think even more important than that is like you can take a before and after picture of like someone's body, but you can't take a before and after picture of like their mind.
Absolutely.
And I think that's probably even a bigger deal.
Yes. That is what I'm 100% most passionate about is, yes, like health and fitness is the avenue, but what we're really changing here that nobody realizes and everyone starts to realize as we go throughout the challenge months and such is that we're changing our minds. And when I read the reviews post a challenge, like after a challenge, it's all like my life improved for these reasons, X, Y, and Z. And it's nothing I'm doing. I'm like saying, here's some tools that will help you. Now you go put in the work. And then they're able to put in the work and see and just like take that control back that we so often give up, especially once we have kids. We kind of just say, oh, like my life is now my children's. No, your life is still yours. And you can still impact your children while taking control of your life. And if we can harness the power of our minds and take complete ownership over everything we do, we have all the power to be, become, say, do anything we want. And that is so cool and empowering.
Yeah. I mean, you've mastered like this one section of your life, which was health and fitness. And I think that making this connection, because we were talking earlier about some of the things that you do that have actually helped you be successful in your business. But it's funny that those are all kind of stem from what you said earlier, which was habits.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, if you can master creating a habit of fitness and the discipline in yourself and to being able to set apart time for that and to be able to be diligent on that. And it's like that parallels with everything else in your life. And you can use that same skill, which is habit creation, for these other aspects.
Yes.
Which is cool.
100%. I think people think they see these people that are doing things that they want to do, right? And they think like, oh, I could never be them. Like something's inherently wrong with me because every time I try to do something, every time I start a new program, every time like I fail. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, like lucky them, they don't fail. No, the difference is the way they're setting themselves up for success. And it's exciting when you realize that because you realize that you can also do now what that person's doing, right? And it's just setting yourself up for success. And like you're saying, it's a skill set that we learn that we can apply to anything we're doing in life. So if a client comes to me and they say, hey, Andrea, and this is always how it is, I am so motivated. I'm so ready. And let's say this person, no judgment, has been like eating Lucky Charms for breakfast, waking up at 10 a.m., staying up till midnight. Yeah, Ben's looking a little guilty over here. Going to bed at midnight and sitting and watching TV all day. And they come to me and they're like, I am so motivated. I'm so ready. Like, And I'm like, okay, what do you want to do? And they're like, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. I'm not going to eat any sweets. I'm going to have 50 grams of protein a day. I'm going to go to bed at 8 p.m. And I'm like, these are all great things, but I'm not going to let you do that. And it's like, well, why not? Because you're going to fail. Well, no, I'm super motivated. Like, it's going to be different this time. Yeah. I promise anyone right now, it's not going to be different this time. It's going to be the same. If you look at your life, over the last million times, you started something and failed. And that's because your process to get there is wrong. Not you. Your process to get what you want is wrong. And so we've got to fix that process. So I'm going to take that same client. And this client are already like, even though they're saying they're going to do that, they don't have any belief because they haven't built that up, obviously, right? They don't have any belief in their words. They haven't
kept a promise to themselves yet.
They haven't. Yep. So like it means nothing to them, even though they're saying it, and they're hoping that somehow their words will make it different. So I'm going to take that same client and I'm going to be like, okay, like that's great. We're not going to do that because you're going to fail. So what we're going to do instead is I want you to start with waking up 30 minutes earlier than what you usually do. And I need you to do that for the next 14 days. You're not allowed to do anything else related to that except for waking up 30 minutes earlier. And in 14 days, come talk to me, right? And they're like, no, but like, I want this now. And by human nature, we want it fast, right?
Yeah, we do.
But like 6 months from now, the time's going to pass regardless. You might as well spend it in pursuit of your goals. Mm-hmm. So being able to step back and realize that it's no different this time. And guess what? That person keeps that promise to themselves for 14 days. And really after 7, I say, okay, you can exercise now, or you can start doing this. But then I say, I want you to just show up to the gym every day. And then I want you to just add in 1 vegetable to every meal. And those small wins are seriously what will lead to an absolute life change rather than starting with all these amazing things. We get a dopamine hit from like setting big goals. Yeah. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. So
that's why a lot of people like setting goals, because they get that dopamine hit as if they've accomplished it, right? It's exciting. Like, yeah, I'm so awesome. I'm setting these outrageous goals. But it's not going to get us anywhere. And so we have to start finding ways to get that dopamine hit from those small daily tasks and keeping those promises that we make to ourselves and letting that build from there. And you'll watch your life change overnight. And a year from now, you'll be so glad you started today, even though that sucks to hear because you want it tomorrow, but you won't see it unless you come at it from a sustainability approach.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that that's the hard part. And I've always thought when it comes to things like this, can it be sustainable?
Yep.
You know, is it something that I can do forever?
Yep.
And it's a good question to ask. And I love that you do that with those clients because it can get so discouraging so fast, especially if you don't keep that promise to yourself right off the bat.
Yes, absolutely. And I think too, a lot of people, they have these goals, like let's say they need to lose 50 pounds or whatever that is. And it feels so impossible,
daunting.
Right? It feels so far away. And I like to relate it to this mountain race I was running once. And it was like a straight uphill mountain climb. And it was when I was getting into trail running. I was pretty new to it. And I remember like the finish line was at the top of the mountain and it was just miles walking straight uphill.
Oh gosh.
And I remember I was doing it and I was so excited to start. And I kept looking to the top of the mountain and I felt like every time I looked up, it was getting further away. It's like when you're swimming to an island and you're like, no, like I should be getting closer. Right. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And so anyways, I kept looking to the top of the mountain and I was just getting discouraged. And so this is no lie. Like during the middle of the race, I'm like, okay, Andrea, obviously looking to the top of the mountain is not helping you right now. So instead of looking there and getting discouraged, what can I actually focus on that's going to get me there? And it was my steps. Like that was the only thing, right? Is to keep moving my feet. And so I literally counted to 100 over and over and over again with my steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that was the only thing I was allowed to focus on. And I grounded myself. I was not allowed to look to the top. This is no lie. So then it turned into a game. Like I can't look to the top. And of course, what happens? Like I finished the race, right?
Yeah.
And I think with clients or anyone, whatever the goal is, it's great to have that big end goal, but you got to break it down to the steps or you're going to be paralyzed by the enormity of the finish line. And so don't be overwhelmed. Overwhelm makes us stop always. Whenever we feel overwhelmed, we stop. And looking to the top of the mountain can honestly cause overwhelm a lot. So yes, set the big goals, but we don't want your daily focus every single day to be on the mountaintop. We want it to be on the steps to get there. And that's really the only way you can even get to the top. So there's a lot of power in those small daily things we're doing.
Well, goal setting is, everyone talks about goal setting, but I feel like what sets Mama Lay apart is accomplishing them.
Yes.
Right? And I've been to Mamale events. And
Yes.
there's
One
like
this weekend, right?
Yes,
My wife is
a couple
"There's
days,
she's like,
yeah.
there's one this weekend.
there's a cult following, and it's like a buzz. And I feel like it's because there's a camaraderie just being together with all these women at different phases, but they're accomplishing goals. And I mean, how did it go from like a hobby on Instagram to that energy you feel at the events?
At the in-person events. Yeah.
Like now it's like there's a true culture about Mamale, I would say.
Absolutely. I take so much pride in our community. It is like the most incredible thing. And it's all from the members. Like I did an interview with Forbes and it's like, okay, there's 1 million fitness apps. You know, what sets Mamale apart? I'm like 100% hands down the community because it's like no other. And I think how it started was like, I truly care. Like, I don't want to like toot my own horn, but like I really, really do sincerely care about the clients. And everything that I do, I'm like picturing myself staring in that mirror postpartum, like feeling so lost. And like, that's who I'm creating the content for. And I feel like that really helps guide it. And then I think too, in the Mamale community, our focus is so much on small wins, always something, that when people come in, we started with a small group that all believe that way. And we've slowly just built where when you come in, like if that's not for you, and you just want like fire breathing, crazy workouts, like we don't really want you there either. Like you're not going to feel satisfied from there. Like we're a community that supports, uplifts, and empowers one another. And I think that's what has really brought it is I think people in any business can tell you as a CEO whether or not you care. Like you can't really fake that. I think that comes across. You can just tell, right? You can tell if someone authentically cares or not. And I think that helps people know that I care, and I do. And then they also care, and I feel that right back. And so it's just this community that's built support. And I mean, it's obviously grown to more than I could have ever imagined or pictured. But like, that is for sure what I take pride in, is just that community that's there supporting each other. And it's cool hearing from other women of people that are in their accountability groups and their lives are changed from the people they're hanging out with, not from me. You know, it's from that culture and that community that we've created for all women.
And it's trickled down even to your team. Like your team members, your employees, they've bought in too. Yeah. You know, that's not every company. Yeah. You know? That's a big deal. And I was talking with Brody, you know, he's bragging you up, and he said, no, don't be scared. I'm just kidding. He said that like one thing about you is that you care about the people first. Like with a business, like, you know, me and Brody were talking like a business, like with what he does with houses and numbers and real estate. Like I do that with storage facilities. You're just underwriting deals over and over, making sure the numbers make sense first. And he said one thing he admires about you is like, you're not thinking about that first. Like you're thinking about the people first. And it's almost like he even shared that like on some events, like you lose money on some stuff. Yep. Because you know that if you bring enough value with one event or a series of things, like overall, your community is going to take care of you. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, Brody always is like, you need to charge more. You need to charge more, always and forever. But it's true. Like community comes first, and that's what keeps me up at night. And that's what gets me excited is how we can serve the community, because that's where I get like so much passion from, is seeing like that change. And it just fires me up. Like I remember when we were building the Mamale app, when we launched, this is like dead serious. I had not even stopped to think that we would be making money from it until the day we launched. Brody was like, well, like, what are you hoping to make? And I'm like, oh, I don't even know. Because I was like, seriously, so excited to just get that out there, because you put so much like love into it. And right now we're building something new and exciting. And like, when we get off our calls, I'm just like, the community's going to die. Like, it's so fun to have a community that gets excited, you know, like they're going to love it. And so it makes it such a blast.
So why did you, it used to be Mommy Fit. Yeah. So you made the brand change. Yeah. What happened? Like, was that, is there a backstory to that? Like,
legal. No, I'm just kidding. Pretty much. So I was Mommy Fit prior, and then when we were getting ready to launch the app, I knew that I wanted to make some big business shifts to become more of like a brand or a company and be able to, I had big goals and visions that I'd written down for like 5 years, 10 years. And I knew that in order to get there as a company, I needed to have like a logo, and I wanted to create a brand so that I could be anything. And so anyways, also Mommy Fit is legally trademarked, so you can't take that, full disclosure. But Mamale means mother in a different language. And so we're getting a national trademark on that right now. And I just loved it because it's like, it doesn't have like Mommy Fit. It sounded like you had to be a mom, and really we're just like a woman empowerment group.
Right.
And so Mamale leaves it to be like, okay, like all women are welcome.
And Daddy Fit.
And Daddy
We
Fit.
talked about that before.
Dadale. That's what Brady always says.
No, it's cool. I was just always curious. So, that first ever, what was it again? You launched?
The challenge.
It was a challenge.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Oh man, it was probably, let's see, Mamale's been around for a year and a half.
So 2 years?
2.5 years probably,
Okay.
because right after that I started building an app.
Okay, yeah.
Yep, we saw it, and like Brody was good to push me and be like, you're on it, like this is good. You need to start thinking, and it took us a year to make the app. So it was a process finding our own team and going through all of that. And so anyways, once the app launched and we rebranded to Mamale, that's when I feel like I hired my first employee a couple months before we launched the app, and now here we are a year and a half later with like a 14 person.
That's cool. Because we bought the first challenge.
Oh
ever.
my gosh.
We were in Vegas at the time, and
That is crazy.
I remember it because I was like, okay, I just wanted to make sure on the timeline. 'Cause I'm like, okay, we bought a challenge. I think it was the first one ever, and
That
the
is
timeline
insane.
lines up. So it's just really cool. Yeah, it's really cool to see where you've been. And then in your Forbes interview, you've grew really fast in only 6 months, right? I mean, you don't have to say numbers.
Yeah.
If you want, but.
Yeah. No, it was big growth, bigger than I could have ever imagined. And I feel like personally for myself, it's been this huge identity shift. Previously I'd always still tell people like, yeah, I'm a nurse. I have this like side business, you know? And now that's totally changed. And I think for anyone starting a business, like my only regret truly, if I look back, is that I didn't step into that identity sooner and just taking full ownership. Like whatever it is that you do, I don't care if you have 100 followers or 200,000 followers. I don't care if you're making $1 a month or multiple millions a month. Like step into that identity of what you want your business to become, because that's when huge shifts started happening for me. And honestly, like the success kind of came before the identity shift, but I think that's what slowed me down for so long is I was just like embarrassed to say anything. And now I will own it. Like, this is what I do. This is who I am. This is how we empower lives. And I'm just like so confident in that. And my confidence was the same then. I was just too scared to say it. But you embody, if you want to change, you embody the identity of the person that you want to become. So like embody that identity and start writing down the traits, practices, the thoughts, like who they are, what they do, and own it. Like own it right away, because that's going to attract the people and the money and the success that comes from being confident in your field. Obviously be able to learn and be willing to learn. But when you step into that shift, like now, if someone posts something contradictory to what I say, or if I get a mean DM or whatever that is, like, I don't care. I really don't. Like, it's okay. Like you're allowed to feel differently than me. I'm confident in what I have here, so you can do whatever you want. And that's just so powerful, because then you're not stuck to the opinions and thought processes of others. It's just you.
Did you ever feel like any fear of being a social media?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, before,
Yes.
or did you just like, okay, I'm just going to do this? And I know it naturally grew.
Yeah.
But did you have all of those fears?
Oh my gosh, yes. Fears, doubts. Like even today, we have our one-on-one coaching launching next week. It's called Mamale Elite. It's a one-on-one coaching program that we've been building for like 8 months. And we have new coaches coming in, which I've always only been the only coach. But like even now, the fear still lives on, you know? Yeah. But I think if you don't have fear, you're not pushing yourself. And something that I always like to think is we always we're trained to tie fear with negativity almost always. But what we can do is these emotions that we're feeling, like tie fear to growth. Like tie fear to a positive emotion. Like if I'm feeling a little nervous and scared inside, that probably means I'm doing something really, really good for me, unless you're standing on the edge of a cliff. Like obviously that's different. But as far as like a life thing, like having the hard conversation, pitching a business idea, whatever that is, like if you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, stop tying it to a negative emotion and start tying it to a positive one. And eventually you'll start chasing that. But I think like fear is part of the process. It's part of the journey. Every single person that starts anything is fearful is going to get negative feedback. But the difference between the people that succeed and the people that don't are the people that do it regardless of the fear, regardless of the hate, regardless of the doubters. Like, you got to keep going. And even something now, I'm always like, okay, well, I know we'll never fail because I'll never quit. And that's something that I always tell myself, like, hey, we have a bad launch or something flops that I put a lot of time in. Cool. I'm not going to quit. It's going to suck for a day or two and I'm going to want to cry, but like, that's okay. I'm okay with that because I'm not going to quit. So like, I know what Momlay, I know what I want it to be, and I know what it will be. And I'm fully confident in that. And I just have to stick to that and keep moving forward aside from the fear.
And that's changing the mindset, like you just literally are reprogramming that mindset of the way you address fear, or way you approach it, or the way you handle it, or channel it into a different,
yes.
So I think it's incredible, and it applies to everything, not just, this is all like, I'm in my mind. It's like anyone listening that wants to get in shape or whatever, that applies. Or you're listening and you're on the edge about starting a business, or could be something else. Like maybe it's going to school. Like maybe you want to go to school to be a lawyer. It could be something like that.
Absolutely.
But changing that mindset. Okay, well, have that belief in yourself. And
yes. And so often we feel those feelings and we go, nope. Like, nope. That must mean it's bad, right? Yeah. That must mean it's bad. No, it's probably really, really good. And being able to sit and identify that, and it's going to 10x your life so quickly.
Well, especially women too, because there's so much that is on like the body, there's so much attention that's put to that. And I feel like it's so hard for them to just have the confidence to start. And again, that's what I think is what makes what you do so unique and nice, that you can help break those barriers of starting and doing those small things and getting into it. I mean, you mentioned a lot about like just being postpartum.
Yeah.
Did you, and I don't want to get too personal, but did you have was it like that postpartum kind of depression kind of thing? And do you want maybe what was that journey like a little bit? Was it that got you, how'd you get out of it? And
totally. Yeah. I mean, I'm a nurse, so I feel like, I should have known everything, but I definitely had postpartum depression. I've had it with both of my babies, and it's always been really frustrating to me because I'm like, I do all the things, like second baby's out, like I'm in the gym, I'm eating healthy, like all those things continue. And so I always felt like I've never been someone that struggled with mental health. So when it happened to me, I was like, what is going on? Like, not me. Like I don't struggle with this stuff. And so for me, it was like I had told Brody the signs beforehand, before we had the baby, which is a great thing for you to do, Ben.
Yes, my wife's having a baby in 2 months.
Research those signs and symptoms so that somebody else, because you're not going to be in a headspace as like the woman to really realize that. And so he knew, and I remember finally saying it out loud to one of my best friends, like, I have postpartum depression. By the time I realized it and admitted it, it was too late to get on medication. But I was already coming out of it by the time I was able to realize I had it. But moving forward, it's before I deliver, I'm getting on medication to get that help, so that way I can come out of it positively. And that's something that I actually created a program with. We have October is our mental health awareness challenge.
Oh, awesome.
And this last October, we actually created a free guide where we had women in the community share their stories of miscarriage, postpartum depression, stillbirth, not being able to get infertility, IVF, all these things. And we took all these stories, and then we actually had women come to my house, and we filmed their stories too in real life. Wow. And then we put together a mental health resource guide for women, whether they're trying to have babies or after they have babies, with the tools and knowledge that they need. Because I think lack of knowledge creates fear often. And we even hired an OBGYN to talk about medications they can take, what to bring up to their doctor, what to ask, what's safe when you're breastfeeding, what's not, just to really empower women in that postpartum period to be able to get the help that they need and not suffer silently. So that was definitely a big mover for me. I'm and it's a free guide to anyone on our website that needs to access that.
No, it's really cool, especially how you've channeled your passion, and we're able to, like you said, find a way to make it like a small business, but it's never been about the money. And that's what I'm really glad you're on the podcast and people will be able to hear your story, because that's one thing. What we're trying to do, we want people to realize is that it's not always about the money, you know, and that there's other things. And it's just cool that you can at that you're doing such a good thing, you know, and you're able to help change people's lives. But what's also cool is what you talked about and being able to like create this life, you know, where you have more time.
Yeah.
And which is fascinating. You know, it's inspiring, really, to be able to, like you said, to be able to kind of create this lifestyle where you can spend more time with your kids. Again, you're busy doing stuff.
Yeah.
Or to go live in Hawaii for a few months. Like that is cool. Like Maddie always, it's probably from you guys, but she's like, wouldn't it be so cool if we could just live in Hawaii for a few months? Like, yeah, that'd actually be pretty awesome.
Yeah, actually we can. We just need to work backwards and figure out what we need to get to do.
Yeah, we gotta take the steps.
Kallan doesn't realize how close it is for him.
Yeah.
Wow. It takes time.
No, I think it's super exciting. Like right now I work 20 to 23 hours a week max, and that's the same for most of our employees because of like that diligent factor. But there is something that is like so cool about creating a life of freedom.
Right.
And that's something that Brody and I are like insanely passionate about, is a life where we can wake up where we want in a house that inspires us and go do whatever we want that day. And it doesn't mean there's not stress. There's a lot of stress and stuff, but man,
it's chosen.
It's like pressure is a privilege for sure, you know? And it's just cool to be able to feel that way and know that like the sky's the limit. Like I feel like this has been the beginning into the funnel, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 1 million other business ideas and I can't wait to like continue to grow and push myself. And it's just, it all comes back to that mindset of freedom. But I think deciding where you want, if you don't know where you're going to go, any road will take you there. Deciding what that road looks like for you, and then obviously making a path backwards. And it's not that far out of reach. Like if someone would have told me a year and a half ago that we were going to be moving to Maui, I would have laughed because I hadn't even been to Maui yet. Like truly, we didn't grow up going to Hawaii, but we like went in November because we made a goal that we wanted to live somewhere else for a month out of every year. And so we went to the Virgin Islands, and we were like, went to St. Thomas for a month, stayed in this really cool beach house. While we were there, we were like, we really like this lifestyle. Like we really like the beach. St. Thomas is like pretty isolated. And so I'm like, I don't know if we could live here. And we're like, well, should we start looking at like beach houses? Where should we have beach houses? And we looked in Maui because Brody had been there for a conference like a couple weeks prior to us going to the Virgin Islands. And it was like, it's been this like year and a half process, which is, it's been so, so cool, you guys, to see the pieces fall into play where it's like, could this be a possibility for us? Okay, like this is kind of fun. Now what would it look like? And then like, would we be able to do that? You know, buying a second home, like obviously Hawaii is very, very expensive. How would that look? And it's just been this like process. And then we're like, okay, like if this is something we're even remotely serious about, let's go fly out there and let's spend a couple weeks there and see how it feels with our kids.
Yeah.
So we did. And then it led us to where we are now. But I think so many people stop at the pushback. Like, oh, there's a lot of things we're having to figure out in order to leave. Like our businesses are here. Yeah. You know, I do events here. I'll be flying home all the time. So will Brody. But like we stop at the pushback. Everyone experiences pushback. If you want something, keep pushing against the pushback, and you'll be able to move those things, move pieces and puzzles around. And like, you have to get creative and you have to work hard in order to make it happen. But like, it can happen. And I feel like Hawaii has been a big thing for us where we're like, oh my gosh, we have a second home on Maui. Like that is so cool. Such a big moment for us. So exciting. But also the road to get there hasn't been easy. And I'm like, I'm proud of us. Like, I feel like a lot of people would have stopped, but like we kept pushing, and it's just like, okay, we're going to keep pushing to that next level over and over and over again. And you get addicted to the success of it, like to pushing your limits. It's like, why do people keep running races? They hate the first one. Why do they sign up again? Because like that feeling at the finish line and that feeling when they push through the hard to get to the good. And I think we just have it so backwards often where we think like hard equals bad. No, hard equals great. Like hard equals success. Chase that, because that's the only way to improve. And like, we're here to progress. We're not here to be stagnant. Like if life.
Or safe.
Yeah, or safe. Like it's okay to like keep pushing yourself. And maybe it doesn't mean you have, you know, a multi-million-dollar business, but like, don't we believe that the best version of ourselves like lies through progression? And what's the only way to progress? To push through hard times. So wherever that is, or whoever you are, wherever you're at in life, like ask yourself, be mindful of what areas you want to improve in. Because unless you're mindful and pushing towards something, you'll just stay there. You either spiral up or you spiral down. I want to be spiraling up for sure.
Well, in the lifestyle goals, I know there's going to be people who are listening, or like if they're going to be thinking, okay, well, it sounds awesome for you. Like,
Yep.
good for you. That's never going to be me. Like,
Yep.
I'm never going to make this much or do whatever. What comes to your mind? Like, how do you overcome that thought? Because that's, people are like, well, you guys are just extra special people. I'm not. I'm just a normal person.
Yeah. My favorite phrase is, you're not a special snowflake. And that probably sounds so mean. I promise I'm nice.
That's politically charged.
But like you're not a special snowflake. And I think like it's a victim mindset. Mm-hmm. And I know people are listening because it used to be me. Wow. And I'm best positioned to serve the person I used to be. Right? Like
that's big.
That's who you are. You're the best person to serve the person you used to be. And so like, that used to be me. Like I literally thought that way. I couldn't have even thought of the life we have now or the life we'll continue to have as we continue to reach goals, because I couldn't even like picture that. And so that's fine. If you're like, hey, Hawaii's not for me, there's no way, like it's not possible for me. Cool, whatever, keep thinking that way. What can you think of right now that is possible for you? Like maybe even that feels like a little bit of a push, right? And I think like changing that mindset and slowly being like, well, like I hate my job. Well, quit. Well, I can't because like I need money for my family. Okay, well, how else can you make money for your family?
Yeah.
Well, I can't because why? Because you're scared.
Yeah.
Right? So let's figure out what this needs to look like in order for you to do that. But if not, I promise you 10 years from now, you'll be sitting in the same situation, talking about the same thing, saying that you should quit your job, but you can't, and nothing's going to ever change. The good news is what you're doing now, you can probably always go back to. It's probably not going to go anywhere, especially if it's a job you hate. I guarantee there's not a ton of people out there that are dying for it. So like you could probably get one similar that pays the same, but like it's always going to be waiting for you. Right. And I don't want to live in mediocrity. Like that's not enticing. And then the other thing is like just being aware of what you actually want and letting your mind go there. I love asking family members or friends, like if we're going on a road trip, like if you could wave a magic wand, like all cards off the table, you could just wave a magic wand and wake up tomorrow. What would your life look like and what would it feel like? And it's like, oh, well, I'm like, think bigger. Like bigger, literally anything. And you're telling me you're just like waking up where you are now? No, like bigger, right? Like what type of car would you drive? What would you be spending your morning doing? What would every area of your aspect of life look like, right? Like how would you be feeling about yourself? What would you think about when you looked in the mirror? And then writing those things down and starting with one area and backtracking. And people can roll their eyes all they want, but like that's the way to get there. And you have to believe it's possible. And if you don't want to chase after it, that's fine. Like, don't. But quit telling me you hate your job if you're not willing to change it.
Yeah.
Make the decision.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that sticks out, and it's so simple, but you've mentioned it informally so many times, like setting goals and how that changed everything. And just being able to set a goal, and it's almost like that Mama Lake culture, you know, you set that vision and then go get these small wins.
Yes.
But if you look at the mountain and you get so discouraged that you quit or you just don't put one foot in front of the other, then it's like you'll never get there.
Exactly.
It's like you have to dream, set the goal, and this is just like I'm speaking out loud, like what I'm learning.
Absolutely.
I'm like I need to apply this to my life, but I just think that's the difference, you know. And it just seems like you guys, you and Brody, I mean, you set those little goals, but you've just done a little thing here and a little thing there, and it hasn't come all at once. I mean, some things did come fast,
but
there's a lot of sacrifice into that, and a lot of work into that.
Absolutely, and I think like Brody and I do a goal setting retreat every year. We've done it for a bunch of years now. Him and I just go into a hotel. Now we've started inviting some friends and like letting them have a process, and then we've created a goal setting retreat template for you and your spouse. But like it is so crazy because every year we sit in this hotel room for 2 days straight and we go over every single area of our lives and how we want that to look. And we do our inventory from the last year, and then we set goals for the future. And we set like a 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, passive income, all these goals, like literally spouse goals, like everything you could think of, spiritual. And we set these goals. And then the next year when we go and we review them, Like we have set goals where we're like, there is literally no way we're going to hit this.
Yeah.
There's no way. And then like, yeah, some we don't hit, but like a lot of them we do hit. And it's because we're revisiting that and we're so much more capable than we think. Like all of us are. And that's so cool. Like we can do so many great things. And I think taking that time to realize that. And then like weekly, Brody and I do Sunday planning. And so we're taking inventory on these items that we've created to focus on throughout the entire year, you know? So we're taking inventory and literally our conversations go like this, like, okay, like how is this going? How is this area going? What do we need to do better here? And it doesn't mean we're perfect. A lot of the time we're sitting there like, yeah, we need to do better at that. And we're failing at that. But it's also like, hey, Andrea, you have a busy week. What can I do to help you? And then I'm like, well, same for you, Brody. What can I do to make your life easier this week? And I just think like that intention though, like in life and where focus goes, energy flows. So like if you're not focusing on it and you're not revisiting that every single week, you're going to forget about that big goal you set on January 1st because you're not revisiting it. It's lost. It's gone from your mind, you know? So needing, to continually revisit that. Set up a habit and an environment for success. Yeah. So if that's like saying, Ben, you're texting Kallan, right?
Yeah.
Kallan every single week and checking in with him on these 3 things, then you're like, hey, Kallan, like I need you to hold me accountable to this. Like I need you to do that. And like we want to just rely on willpower and motivation to make us do things. No, that will eventually be gone. Set yourself up for success. If you can't wake up in the morning to work out, find a workout buddy to do it. Yeah. You keep saying you're going to, and like if they're at your house, you're going to get up.
Yeah.
Like you're going to, right? So set up a fail-proof environment. Like I have friends that meet me in my gym at 5:15 in the morning, and the mornings that they cancel, like, oh man, it takes everything in my soul. And that's like what I preach, but it's so hard for me to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And so it's like anything you're doing in life, set these goals and then set up a fail-proof environment to keep you safe with those small wins that will keep you accountable and watch. Just try it. Like that would be my thing. Just try it. See what happens.
Well, in your article in Forbes, there's a quote, and it was basically, when setting goals, think big. When looking for results, think small.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's something that's like, write that one down, because it's like before the race, you can picture the mountaintop, but not in the middle of it, because that's discouraging, right? And so I think doing that exercise, like the goal setting and what would you do if time and money wasn't an object,
Absolutely.
You have to have that. But then like when it comes down to it, you have to have like okay, what's the next action? I think with starting something, it's like I was talking to someone who needs to go to therapy for something. I was like, okay, you need to call and get on the therapist calendar and then you'll go.
Yes.
With my little brother Matt, he just started a painting company, and he's like, okay, like I want to do this. I'm like, okay, the first step is to decide that you're going to do it. I don't care if it's like you put it in your LinkedIn bio or you just print off some business cards, but like, I don't even care if you're licensed and insured yet. Obviously you got to do that. But like, before you even do that step, you got to say, I am a business owner. I'm going to do this. When you introduce yourself and they ask you about yourself, like, oh, I own a painting company. Oh, I own a Billy Rubin company. I don't know what you're going to call it, but basically like, I own this. This is who I am. This is part of me. And it's like off The Office when Michael declares bankruptcy. He's like,
I'm the worst. Don't watch The Office.
You won't get this. You won't get this. But he's like, he comes out of his office. He's like, I declare bankruptcy. And then someone goes up to him. He's like, you can't just declare. He's like, you can't just say you're bankrupt and then you are. You have to declare it. He's like, I didn't say it. I did declare it. It's like, it doesn't work like that with bankruptcy. But with starting something, like, if you just start to have the mindset, put on the hat.
Yep,
like,
wear the hat.
It's a good first step.
Embody the identity.
Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely.
I don't know the Millionaire Success Habits because I haven't read the book yet, but is that one of them, like goal setting and setting these habits? Because I think even like as a couple, I'm like, you look at people who are successful, or at least in how we define or what we look at, and I think that you and Brody have had a lot of success. And it's like, well, look what you guys are doing. I mean, you guys are, even just that one little thing. It's like to be able to take time to set goals together and then to do like, you never served a mission, did you? You do like, those
companionship inventory. That's what Brody calls it.
Every Sunday you guys are doing that. I mean, like that's it's so much easier to just like pick a Netflix show or something
Absolutely.
and watch that as a couple.
Absolutely.
And never have to think about that and like be disciplined. It's like comes back to like just being able to set part of that time. That's just like, that's the difference. That's what I'm realizing. It's okay. You have to be committed and do those small wins, but actually try to create those habits.
Creation.
Yeah.
And that's like Brody always talks about like creating your dream life, your dream lifestyle. He calls himself like a lifestyle entrepreneur because like that's what motivates him, is having the life that he wants to live. I think a great book when it comes to setting habits, and that's where that quote process like comes from. That quote thought is Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Oh, yeah.
And it is like, goes down as probably my top favorite book ever written. I've read it like 9 times. I don't even know, but it's such a powerful book when it comes to habit setting and creating new habits that will change your life. So it's really good. 2 book recommendations: Atomic Habits and Millionaire Success.
I'm already picturing like one of these years we're going to have couples goal setting retreat at our cabin in Alaska. We're going to have you guys out to host it.
Heck yeah. We'll totally host it.
We could have easily had Brody here, but then this would have been like a 4 or 5 hour podcast with both of you.
Oh, for sure.
I think there's like so much power individually. We'll have to do it together as a couple, just like because I think it's so impressive, like the work-life balance. I see a lot of parallels like with my wife. Like she was in a medical job. I just said just quit, just like word for word. It's like
radiology, quit your job.
Quit your job.
Obviously, like Lolo's hasn't blown up as much as from the dollar.
Amazing.
It's amazing, but it's I see a lot of parallels, and it's really exciting just to see how it kind of takes off,
Yep. Sky's the limit, right?
If you had just a couple, takeaways that applied to anyone, what are some principles you live by, or some things that have really impacted you that you would say to pass on?
Yeah, I would say believe in yourself, and that's going to sound super cliche, but like seriously, like, do you believe in what you say you're going to do, honestly? And ask yourself that honestly. And if not, you need to fix that. And then 2, ask yourself the question, why is anyone more capable than me? And that's something that I ask myself a lot when I look at other people, is I refuse to believe that anyone's more capable than me to accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. And then I think 3, like, you're doing a good job. And like, say that to yourself. You can be proud of yourself. You don't have to be moving mountains, losing 100 pounds or anything like that to be proud of yourself. You're proud of yourself right now for showing up in the way you show up. And that being proud of yourself, like, you can be just like blissful dissatisfaction is what Ed Milet calls it, being like happy with where you're at, but still wanting to improve. And I think a lot of the times people miss that, is they think in order to improve, they have to hate themselves there.
Yeah.
But you can be really proud of yourself and push yourself forward. And that's where you're going to see the most success. So yeah, believe in yourself. No one's more capable than you, and blissful dissatisfaction.
Wow.
I love that. I'm thinking a lot of people are like, she's not human. I'm like, I'm here to witness. She is a normal.
My gosh,
she's a normal human being. She's real, and that, like, everyone has that inside of them.
Yes.
And that was what I'm trying to say, is that everyone has it inside of them. This is the first time we've met, even though I've seen you on social media and stuff. But it's like, you're a normal person, just like anyone else. With
grew up in Hurricane, Utah.
Grew up in Hurricane.
Oh my gosh. So
but I think like that's what we all think, right? Like, I'll sit with someone else and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I could like seriously think it's even funny to think that anyone would think of me as like not just being like normal, because in my mind I'm like, no, trust me, I have plenty of flaws and I'm just like the same as everyone else, but that's the coolest part. It's all within us. Like, and people will follow you and will follow you and will follow anyone on this podcast for a different reason. And because we each have innate abilities to help people. So don't try to be like anyone else. Like, figure out who you are and then be that person, and other people will feel that authenticity and follow along.
Yeah. I love that.
Absolutely. Well, we just appreciate you coming on. It's been a blast. I think there's so many key takeaways here, just from the goal setting to the beginnings to the mindset shifts that people are really going to be impacted by it. So we just have to really applaud you and say thanks for taking some time out.
Yeah, thank you for being on.
Well, thanks for having me and making me feel so good, guys.
You heard it here. Andrea Fausett with Mom Lay on the Beyond Net Worth podcast.